What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Nitzy coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial here today on the channel. I wanted to do a free Mixed by Ali vocal template for you guys. All right, so Mixed by Ali is a legendary hip-hop engineer. We all know about him. He worked with Kendrick Lamar, all of TDE, and I just wanted to go over some of his mixing techniques. I feel like with somebody like Ali, he's really important to the game because he really contributed at a time where it was like Kendrick Lamar was just really taking over. So let's get to this right now. Somebody like Mixed by Ali, he was a protege of Dr. Dre, legendary hip hop producer. And it's interesting because Mixed by Ali, he started mixing in the computer, but then Dr. Dre showed him that SSL G channel, so he understands how to use a console. Very interesting. He's like kind of like a hybrid baby. He learned through the computer like we did, but then he learned the analog a little bit, and now he used both of them. He not trying to pick no sides. He just takes advantage of the best tools for the job. Okay, so with this preset right here, we got a lot of things to go over. Studio Rack, right? I'm emulating the SSLG channel that he uses, and a part of that VCA circuitry and the compression and those solid state components, they have a tonal character that glues the mixes together just off the components alone. You feel me? And of course, we know about the bus compressor, the SSLG bus compressor, which is a very legendary bus compressor known for the quote unquote glue, even though I don't think a bus compressor is glue, but it's still known for the glue, right? So first thing about Mixed by Ali, he knows how to get that bass to slam and hit hard. And there's a couple of go-to tools he likes to use. Like a guy like Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen with the pot whipping it. He got a certain type of knife he like to use, a certain type of, cutting board, a certain type of a spoon. As an engineer, you kind of like a chef. You're gonna have certain type of tools that you like to use to cut up the ingredients, which is the music. So one of those tools that Mixed by Ali loves to use is the decapitator. The decapitator is a very dope, timeless plugin because it's modeling a couple of different saturators, right? The A is for the Ampex, right? A tape machine. So that's like a tube distortion. Then you have the E, which is like EMI console. You have the N, which is a Neve, type of saturation. Then you have the T, which is triode tubes, and P, which is pencil tubes, coming from the Culture Vulture. So I noticed he loves to use something like this on a situation where you have like a bass, right? And sometimes it's a little bit better to saturate the bass to give it some more weight rather than to use EQ. Sometimes when you use EQ and like you're using like a Pultec, you're boosting more sub, you can start to eat up all your headroom. You feel me? So your limiter is gonna start working all harder. You're not gonna be able to get your mix as loud. So maybe saturation is why it's a better alternative for somebody like Mixed by Ali. And saturation also gives you a little bit of that texture, a little bit of that fried chicken, crispy Popeyes, KFC skin. All right. So on the parallel chain, Ali mostly just for the low end. I noticed he likes to use a little bit of parallel processing, and this is a dope plugin that even I had to buy. This is the Moog filter from UAD. This is pretty interesting. He likes to use that drive section to produce a little bit of distortion, but in parallel, so it's not affecting the original bass. It's just adding a little bit more of that honey garlic, honey habanero seasoning, that cayenne Creole seasoning on top of the chicken. Okay, so the filtering part is interesting because he likes to play around with the slope, right? The slope, and the slopes is kind of like the poles, is what they also call it too, on a Filter Freak, right? Where the slope is kind of like an EQ. So he's literally doing parallel EQ, and he likes to hit the mono button as well, which takes the output and makes it mono and blend that back in. So it's a really dope situation. I would say in order to actually mix with like parallel EQ, you actually need good monitoring because he kind of really doing a phase shift low key because you taking another copy of the 808, but then you EQing it and blending it back in. So he kind of doing a phase shift. So make sure that you have good monitoring or good headphones like NDH30 to hear that. So after that, we have the kick with a guy like Mixed by Ali. He understands that the RVox has a little bit of that low mid presence, that I be talking about. So that RVox, he likes to squeeze the kick with just a little bit of compression in a sense where he's doing a little bit of additive EQ because the RVox it adds low mid density, and that low mid density helps push the kick and give it a little bit more presence. So that's a really dope way of using Artvox that I noticed. And sometimes with those throwback hip hop samples, you know, there might be a little bit of noise that is giving the texture, a little bit of vinyl noise or RC20 that a producer might put on. So he might put on a little gate, you feel me, as he's mixing. And then you have something which is the world famous VOG, voice of God. And this is what the VOG is essentially doing. It's just a real steep filter, you feel me? Like kind of like just taking a knife and just doing a nasty cut, you feel me? And just doing a really steep filter and you know, just doing a little resonance, a bump as well. So it's pretty good for kick because it helps the chest, the heart rate, the beat, boo, boo, the pulse of the kick come through. You feel me? It helps that big belly, that stomach of the kick kind of come through. And then, you know, I see that a lot of the engineers like Ali, they might like to use the lo-fi, the avid lo-fi, that distortion, you know, it has a way of giving a little bit of high mid bark. You know, so different saturators, different compressors have different areas that they like to work in, like a Arvox work in the low mid, Avid Lo-Fi. You know, when you hit that distortion, it has like this like 9 to 10K type of bump, really type of gritty type of bump that helps that kick hit hard. Okay, after that, I noticed that Mixed by Ali, when I was watching his streams, he would like to use something like a Fairchild. You feel me? Like on his rim, and that's kind of dope too. Using like a Fairchild on a snare or on a rim because the tubes have a way of making it brighter. So rather than to actually use EQ to brighten up, you know. Same thing that applies to the bass. Rather than to use an EQ to make the booty bigger, you feel me? We could just use saturation or understanding the components of a certain compressor to give us a little bit of oomph in a certain area. So a really dope thing about using a Fairchild is that the tubes will instantly make the snare or the rim shot brighter, right? And also have a way of just producing a little bit of distortion in that high mid. That's what the tubes do. And also the Fairchild has transformers, which also provides a little bit of weight to that snare, so that snare doesn't look skinny going up against that big body G-Wagon kick and bass in comparison, you feel me? Okay, so after that, hi-hats. I noticed that on you know, with Mixed by Ali, he likes to use the SPL transient designer. And whenever it comes to using transient designers in general, it's all about the groove. Because sometimes the hi-hat might already feel good, you know, so you might not want to use a transient designer. But if you have a groove that's like, you know, you're paying attention to how everything is reacting to each other from a groove perspective. So you might have a hi-hat that is a little bit too long, and that's where you might want to back off the sustain a little bit, you know. Mostly I like to use this SPL transient designer to boost a little bit of attack as well. You know, you can use the transient designer to make the hi-hat hit a little bit harder rather than to do, okay, oh, let's do an EQ on the green knob at 10K or not on 10K. Like some people might try to be like, oh, I want my hi-hat to hit harder. Okay, I'm gonna do a boost on the green knob. You know, that might start boosting up harshness, right? So you could get maybe the hi-hat to still hit hard, but by using the transient designer. So that's something I learned from Mixed by Ali, is that there's different ways of approaching it. You feel me? It's like a football game. You know, if it's 3rd and 10, sometimes we don't always gotta throw it. Maybe we can run it and catch the defense off guard and still, you know, win the game. Mixing is all about situational awareness. Okay, after that we have the open hat. I also noticed, I feel like when he does the EQ, he's using the EQ in a different way, because sometimes you might have an open hi-hat, right? And you want the open hi-hat to maybe possibly be longer, right? So rather than to use like a transient designer, it sounds like there's certain open hi-hats that might sound like tss, but it might have like a little bit of low level reverb. And if you do something like a mag EQ, it might go from being like tss to tss, because now you hear a little bit of that sustaining reverb that is all the way up there. So that's something that dope and alternative way. I noticed Mixed by Ali kind of uses the mag EQ. Personally, usually open hi-hats already kind of come in bright. If you're a mixing engineer like that, you know what I'm talking about. Like people, like a lot of the FL Studio beat makers, they usually put like fresh air on their mastering bus. So usually like the hi-hat is already stupid bright. The open hi-hat is already stupid bright. You feel me? So, you know, it doesn't really make sense to always like start boosting top end on a hi-hat or open hi-hat with a shelf. But if from a perspective of trying to make it groove and trying to make it sound longer, that would actually kind of make sense. So that's kind of like an assumption of what I noticed from Mixed by Ali. You feel me? I don't know if he's necessarily doing it like that, but that makes the most sense because on a mag EQ, Bruh, you not no dog, fam. You're not gonna hear that 20K, bruh. You're not going to hear that 20K, bro. You're not a dog. Well, only dogs can hear all the way up there. Like a 20K shelf means 20K and up, everything up from there. So, I mean, unless you a dog, my nigga, you're not really going to hear that. But that low level detail getting extended from that high shelf, you definitely is going to feel a little bit longer. So that's why, I thought of it that way, right? So as a young engineer, don't be trying to copy these niggas, bruh. Don't. You feel me? You not mixed by Ali. You feel me? You not Jason Joshua, bruh. Watch them mix, learn, and then take that and apply it to your own swag. Like Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant said, "I love Michael Jordan." You feel me? He tried to copy the fadeaway, right, from Michael Jordan, but at the end of Kobe Bryant's career, he done already made it his own sauce to the point where nobody says, "Oh man, that Kobe Bryant, he trying to be like Michael Jordan so bad." Nobody said that, bruh, because he learned from him and then he created his own swag. That's what you gotta do as an engineer, bruh. That's what you gotta do, bro. Stop trying to copy other people. I'm making this template and showing you a situation where, what can we take from them to make us better so we could try to get into that position? Because I want to see y'all blow. Cool. All like the drum group. Now we're using that SSLG bus compressor. You feel me? SSLG bus compressor on the slowest attack. The slow attack really makes sense because you want all of your transients that you've been working hard for, from boosting that bass, getting that kick to hit right. You want all your transients to come through. Sometimes he might not use drum bus compression, but personally, you know, a lot of engineers, maybe like CLA, he likes to use the SSL bus compressor on his drum groups, and then maybe he use his Focusrite on the bus compressor. So people don't always just only exclusively use these tools on just one thing, right? But the beautiful thing about SSL bus compressor is I probably would click analog. You feel me? Maybe not even compress, but just engage that input transformer. That transformer will give more beef to the whole drum kit. So sometimes that's what people will do. They will only use that bus compressor just for the component, knowing the transformer. They're gonna put a little bit of that honey bun belly on top of the drums. Okay. Now with the piano, and also his bass as well. If he's using an acoustic bass, I noticed that he will pull out something like an LA2. So the LA2 has a certain way of the tubes in it give a really nice imaging to things like synths, piano, and bass because it has a low mid density, a low mid characteristic to it. It has the tubes in it as well as the optical component, right? And I think the LA2A it has like a transformer, but most of the sound is truly really coming from those tubes. It has triode tubes in it, so triode tubes have a way of thickening things up, right? And also you can glue shit together. Like, oh, I know the motherfucking decapitator has a triode tube. Oh, but the LA2A has a triode tube in it too. So sometimes you can glue your mix together with the components. Sometimes you can glue that tomato soup and that tomato spaghetti by both using tomatoes, which is the same ingredient. So the dishes are glued together, my nigga. Stop trying to act like you don't know this. Okay, after that, Fairchild 670 on the synths. Okay, let me go back and change this because honestly, if I was mixing this, I would use the Fairchild. I would use the Fairchild 670 Legacy version because the Legacy version is a little bit cleaner. You know what I mean? It doesn't have that much distortion. And it's just overall a little bit cleaner. It sounds a little bit warmer to my ears as well. People like to use this on like a parallel vocal as well too. It has a really nice way of giving some presence, really nice way of giving some presence. So he would use something like that, maybe on a synth pad, something to warm it up a little bit too. A great technique from Mixed by Ali as well, which is really dope because I do this all the time. Is it looks like he understands that 1176s have a certain way of being advantageous. Like you can use it as a high mid saturator, right? Like on horns or guitars, right? By just like turning off the compression and maybe just clicking all buttons in mode, that changes the bias current, that changes the electricity going through that bit. So it has it kind of pumps up the signal a little bit more. So if it was coming to something like horns, we would probably use all buttons in ratio, maybe turn off the compression, or just I noticed that he might hit all buttons in and not do no compression. You know what I mean? So if you a dumbass, you sitting there watching that, you like, oh well, I got a compression with like, no, Like why are you compressing it with the way you why you compressing but you're not compressing? Like obviously if you know the components, you be like, oh, that makes sense why he would put an 1176 all buttons in mode but not compress on the guitar because oh the components he's using the components to his advantage. Maybe you should do that too. You know, that makes life easier as an engineer. And then on the all music bus, of course, you know, we probably use something like an ATR 102. I did not see Ali use this, but I'm pretty sure he will go to something like this because that tape tone has a certain way of making the music come to life. Something about this ATR2, it has different types of tape and also lets you control the tape compression as well. So we went ahead and threw that into the template, you know. So the higher of the calibration that goes up, the more tape compression that you will get. And of course, you can just get more tape compression by just throwing the input, slamming that input into the ATR by itself. So that's pretty dope how that plugin is. When it comes to like the vocal chain, you got to think about it too. You know, Ali, that man is already getting processed vocals. He's getting wet vocals. That's how the music industry works. Like a lot of people in the music industry, bruh, they don't send vocals that are just like raw. That's not common. You feel me? They mostly send wet stems because first of all, the tracking engineer, he is the photographer. He done already captured the vibe of the night, the emotional, you know, image of the song. He didn't already put it in there. You feel me? So a lot of the times mixing engineers like John Castelli, you feel me? Like Baines, Tizio, like these engineers that are up that are mixing engineers, they don't get raw vocals like that. You feel me? They get mixed vocals. They get both the raw vocals and the mixed vocals to correct me because I know somebody might be like, "Oh, what are you talking about? You don't know shit." But no, they get the raw vocals and they get the mixed vocals because it takes time to mix raw vocals, bruh. And why would I do that if you got a great tracking engineer who done recorded through a Neve and all that shit and done already captured the vibe and we just working off the vocal sound and you getting everything to sound good, right? So using like a very simple EQ7, DS or C4, you feel me? I noticed he used that SSLG channel, probably doing a little bit of board EQ. I noticed that he likes to do a little bit of that board circuitry, and of course he's clipping the board. He's using the board like a clipper, just like how my young niggas they use FL Studio Clipper and they clip into it. It's a sound, bruh. Clipping has always been used throughout music, bruh. Neve, API, Trident consoles, any console that people had SSL, they like to clip that board. You feel me? That when they clip it, it produces distortion. Okay, so I don't like that little kind of discrimination that like hip hop people get when they say, "Oh, those hip hop kids, they're just using a FL Studio Clipper and they're just clipping like Yeet vocals and clipping a Destroy Lonely." I hate when they get on my young niggas about that shit, bruh, because it's like clipping has always been used throughout music. Don't act like because it's young people in a bedroom using clipping now, oh, all of a sudden it's a bad thing for rap music and this, and that. All right. So then the ad libs, he like to use Metaflanger, you know, maybe a little REQ. And then to glue the vocals together, I put on another Fairchild. You know, you don't have to use that. Usually for a parallel vocal, you know, Ali he's got a nice collection of like vintage hardware, 1176s, distressors, and I just picked the distressor because I know it's great for that parallel rap vocal, just due to the way that it has like the detector circuit, it has like different types of distortion that you can generate. It's like a Swiss Army knife, right? But the me personally, when I do use the distressor plugin, I don't even use it to compress. I use it as a clipper. I just put it on 1 for 1, and yeah, I just drive it in there until I hit this light right here, this one or red line. You feel me? Which means it's kind of like going over the clipping threshold. So people use these stuff in different ways, man. You know, you a young engineer. I would always advise anybody to, as you're learning, try different stuff. Try to learn from different people like Kobe Bryant. You feel me? He done learn from Michael Jordan, but by the time he became Kobe, nobody was like, man, he's trying to be like Mike, because he just he learned from somebody and he kept adding his own sauce to it. So do that too. And then Ali likes to use those H delays, those are pretty cool. And then very important, that AMS RMX 16. Woo! I love this reverb, bro. I love this reverb specifically because of the non-lin and the ambience, bro. I love it. And even the chorus too. The chorus on this kind of reminds me of Eminem. Reminds me of Slim Shady a lot. Like it reminds me of Slim Shady. If you take this plug in, you put the chorus, you're like, oh, that's Eminem right there. That's literally the sound that Dr. Dre was using to get that Eminem. That chorus is oftentimes used as a little stereo spreader tool type shit, right? So really dope using that ambience. you know, on the AMS reverb. And one of them last things that we got is the Eventide H3000 on micro shift. One of the GOAT doublers, the GOAT doublers of all time. Eventide H3000 used on Tupac's vocals, you know, the Magic Air preset, used on countless numbers of hits. The Eventide H3000 is kind of like a pitch shifting modulator, delay. You got so many presets inside of this thing. It's honestly a dream, you know, having this. You got phasers, delays, flangers, pitch shifting, you know, noise generation. This is a really dope plugin right here. And one more thing is like he likes to use like a you know, clipping the master output on that board as well. And I noticed that he'll put that API 2500 plugin on that bus compressor. That's very interesting. I don't know if he's actually using it to compress, but on this plugin, if you click like I think it's manual makeup gain, and you just only push the output, you can just use it as a clipper. So you can push it like to the volume you need to push it to without redlining. Um, Without redlining your DAW, pretty much. So that's a secret way of using that. So this is pretty much the end of the video here today. I hope y'all was able to learn. You know, I hope I was able to break down. I feel like that's what I like about my channel. That's what I like about what I do, because I noticed that with the OGs, the engineers, like they don't know how to explain themselves. Like, especially to a young nigga. Like when I'm watching some of these guys, I'm like, damn, I understand them, but it's like they don't know how to really explain themselves. Like they don't know how to explain themselves. So that's why I like when I make these videos and I make these templates, because like you can watch Ali mix, but you don't really know what the fuck that knife, why he's using that knife to cut that chicken. You don't really know why he's using that spoon to pour the sauce over the rice like that. You don't understand why, because the spoon is shaped like that. You feel me? So it's pretty cool. So if you guys like this video, let me know down below so I can keep doing these. I was doing these like last year, and then I was like, I noticed that so many people download those free presets. It's time to get back onto it. It's time to help give y'all these free materials, because I want to see y'all win. I want to see y'all become great, man. So I just want to say thanks for being a great part of my YouTube family. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate y'all now. Peace.